One thing we have the burden of dealing with as people in self improvement, or just people in general, I think most people can probably agree and relate to this, is the burden of having to go through all these hard times, to be wholly responsible for the guilt, the shame, all that stuff we feel when we don't keep up with habits, when we don't stay consistent on the things we know we should, when we stray from the path, find ourselves indulging into the habits and the bad things that we used to do prior. It's a heavy weight to carry, and it kind of lingers with a lot of people. I mean, it has for me for a lot. I'm often burdened by past things I've done, but not in the sense that it stops me from wanting to progress further. In the sense that I know how easily I could become that person again. In essence, it's a good thing too, because with that knowledge, I'm able to stay away from things which I know aren't going to be good for me. I understand myself very well. I know what's bad for me. I know what isn't going to help me. I know what will help me. Through that knowledge, which I can say I've obtained through spending a lot of time by myself, experimenting, seeing what I am reactive to positively and what I'm reactive to negatively. Through that, I can build this in a checklist, so to speak, as to what is going to work for me and what isn't going to work for me. So, what I really want to try and get across to you today is just a couple things which I think you need to be aware of if you feel yourself slipping away from who you want to be, your future self. If you feel your past habits creeping back up to you, then this video will definitely help you, because I have had this issue a lot and still do. I'm still troubled by it fairly often. It's not something I'm completely over and done with just yet, not by any means. And I don't think it's something you can completely eliminate, but it's something you can keep under wraps. It's treated like a. This is gonna sound super cringe, but it's like an inner, like demon or something that you can just hold back every now and then, but it can't always be completely eliminated, because that it's so easy to become that guy who was on video games 12 hours a day on that site every single day, watching these things. It's easy to become that person again, but by keeping it under wraps and knowing what works for you, what doesn't work for you, you can stay away from those things, because you need to understand yourself very, very well. And what I'm going to get at now is you can do this by staying away from bad influences, for one, and two, having a sense of pride in yourself. You have to have a sense of confidence, because when you don't have any confidence, you put everyone else you see on a pedestal. Everyone you bump into is better than you. Like throughout high school, I had zero self-esteem. Nothing. Niche. Everyone I'd see, I had passed judgment on, and that judgment 100% of the time was, they're better than me. They've got everything that I would want. But I had never even spoke to them. It was just an assumption, and it was an assumption based off of, well, of course they're going to be better than me, because what do I have? What do I offer? They're popular. They're speaking with everyone. They're doing all the things that I would like to do. They must be better than me. But as my eyes were opened, I observed and I noticed, things like that. There's no long-term gratitude in it. Yeah, okay, it's good. You get great social skills, or a bare minimum, that's one thing you can get from, having a pretty hectic, like, social circle like that. But a lot of unwanted things happen when you surround yourself like that. You know, one small mistake and one bad influence and one, choice, it could lead you to a lifetime of bad habits. And I know, because those people who I've mentioned, a lot of them, they're completely different people. Unrecognizable. The habits they've picked up, self-damaging, self-sabotaging. And you know what? When I was wishing I was them in high school, they're probably looking at me now and wishing they were me. It's funny how the table turns as life, continues to progress, and you continue to find yourself while others continue to be influenced by others, never experiencing, never finding themselves, never truly being who they were destined to be. It's crazy. Imagine living a life where you never actually find your purpose. Living a life where your purpose is dictated by other people. Wanting to be like them, wanting to show up for them, wanting to just change your characteristics to suit them better. That's no life to live. You're being puppeteered if you live like that. And by doing that, you destroy your future self. Past habits creep back up. And wanting to keep up appearances keeps you from showing up to yourself. That's the most important thing. You have to show up for yourself. You have to be selfish at times in order to be selfless in the future. A lot of these goals you have, retire your family, selfless goals like that, require you to be selfish for a period of time. Keep away from bad influences. Keep away from people who are going to damage you, keep you, weak. Why would you want to be around them if you're aware of that fact? So, if you really want to keep, and if you feel like you're slipping, if you feel like you're losing, then you have to eliminate bad social circles for one. At the very least, that's what you should do first. You gotta get rid of those people, and you can't be guilty about getting rid of them either, because, like I said, they're gonna do more harm than good to you anyway. Yeah, okay, you'll get, maybe your social skills will increase. Maybe you'll, go out to these parties to meet people who you really don't care about, who are also going to be bigger and badder influences to you, and it's just gonna fuel that cycle. But if you want to live that life, then be my guest, But it's ultimately about, what sacrifice you want to make. Do you really want to sacrifice your permanent dreams for this temporary, little hit? Or do you want to sacrifice that temporary little hit for your permanent dreams? Alright? It's just up to you. And again, I want to emphasize, don't feel guilty about this whole, slipping back into your past habits and stuff, because it happens. It's happening to me. It's happened to me. Whenever I find myself in that loop, a lot of guilt washes over me, and it's damaging. It's frustrating to see myself sometimes being who I was once again, but there's always one habit which always keeps me differentiated from my past self, and that's always been the gym. That's always been the gym. That's my rock solid core habit, principle, whatever you want to call it. That's always kept me separate and different to my past self. I will always be nothing like that person as long as I'm going to the gym, as long as I'm focusing on fitness, as long as I'm dieting, as long as I'm doing that. That is like my core fundamental for my standard of consistency, productivity, like, you know, all things that are going to benefit me. I judge it based off of how consistent I am in the gym. And maybe for you that's a different habit. You know, maybe your core, like, non-negotiable for you is different. You know, maybe it's, I don't know, reading, maybe it's focusing on a business or a channel that you're trying to grow. But whatever it is for you, if you keep that up in your life wholeheartedly, you will never ever become that person who you are afraid of being again, your past self. Because these habits, they're not just a lifestyle anymore, they are your life. You can't imagine yourself without them. You know, and I've only really been working out for just over 2 years now, and I can't imagine myself without it. You know, so through that, I've re-established a new identity for myself. I'm able to shed my past self. I'm able to, you know, be reignited as a new person through fitness, through making this channel, through all the good habits that I chase. And if you're feeling purposeless, if you're feeling like you lack guidance, just, you know, as Goggins says, lace them up, go to the gym, hit some chest, and after it, I'm almost certain you'll have a little bit more guidance as to where you should go and how you should maneuver if you want to stay away from your past self again. You just need to put yourself through hard times. Like I said, stay away from bad influences, because again, more harm than good is done from them. Don't be guilty about, you know, cowering into those past habits again, because you can shed them. You can shed them. You just got to take new opportunities which are going to benefit you. You know, pick up some new habits, you know, focus on yourself, and just come to terms with the fact that things are going to get worse before they're going to get better. But just because they're getting worse doesn't mean that the bigger reward isn't being built in direct proportion to the suffering. The more suffering, the bigger the reward. That's how I always see it. And that's always been true. You know, whenever I've had periods in my life where I've had mass amounts of like suffering, shortly after it, maybe even in the week coming, boom, I see progress in the gym, or, you know, I see growth on my Instagram or my channel, or something else like which is positive happens as a result of that, you know, hard period in my life. So sometimes you've got to stay consistent in the toughest waters, man. Like, it is heart-wrenching sometimes to be able to have to wake up every day purposeless and still grind and still do all these habits, knowing that there won't be anything there for you tomorrow and you'll have to do the exact same thing again, knowing that you're just one bad day away from being your past self again. But, you know, you're guaranteed to fail if you don't do that, but you are not if you continue to pursue these good habits, if you can continue to pursue your future self, your ideal image of who you want to be. You're guaranteed to become that person if you wholeheartedly believe and take action towards becoming that person. Hope you enjoyed this video today. Different kind of thing I'm trying to go with. I don't really know, I just kind of freestyled this whole thing, but hopefully, you know, you can take something of value from it once again. Yeah, that's enough from me. Strive for greatness and don't be a bad puffin nerd.